notable and wonderful. I also want to congratulate you simply on being involved and engaged students, regardless of what you choose to involve yourself in. And my guess is, given how successful this chapter has been in such a short period of time, that this is not your only involvement. How many of you are active in other student organizations? Yeah, that's what I thought. So, congratulations to you on being engaged, because not only does that reflect on how you're embracing your university experience, and my daughter's going to be a freshman at Mizzou next fall, so I'm very excited about that for her, because I'm excited about her being in the company of students like you. But it's also, in my opinion, and especially at your age and phase in life, more importantly than your age, that's leadership, right? So what does it mean to be at your age and exhibit leadership, which is what everyone is expecting you to do, and yet you are students and you're supposed to be learning, and that implies sort of a subservient role, and I think that's really a lot to ask at your age to demonstrate leadership. Now, you can be officers in organizations, and I think that's fantastic, but I think that that's a very classic example of leadership, and it's great, and I did a lot of it too, and I was uber involved in college too, but it's not the only way to be a leader, and I want to talk, that's what I think I'd like to talk to you about, and think about what that means for life planning and planning for success. I know you have a high proportion of seniors in this organization, and you all are graduating soon, and that's exciting and terrifying, and those are not mutually exclusive emotions, and so I wanted to talk about a little bit of that, because I think that a group of really highly engaged students like you all, who are really sort of taking the world on in the best sense of that word, are very driven towards success, and we want you to be, and that's what we're trying to facilitate in you, is future success and give you the tools that you need. But I also think success is a really funny word. It's a word that has meant very different things to me at different phases of my life, and it will mean very different things to you. And I want you to embrace that, and embrace the idea that you would look to your left and your right and not necessarily do the same things, even though you obviously have a very strong common interest, and that that's really okay. And I think sometimes one of the greatest advantages we have is the size of our student population. We're at 4,300 students now in the True-Last College of Business. I know you all hear that number a lot. I'm amazed by that, and very proud of it, obviously, but also it's daunting to steward that many students. So the advantage to you, of course, is so many people, so many different points of view, lots of people to meet, what a network, every year getting more academically powerful. You know that the alums who come after you are going to be fantastic. We're taking care of that for you. But at the same time, when you are in such a large group, it's hard to not feel this urge to pull ahead, right? And say, if I'm not winning at something, then I'm not succeeding, that's not success, and I'm not exhibiting leadership skills. And that's really not necessarily the case. Again, not to say anything bad about winning. Winning's good, don't get me wrong. But it's not the only way to be successful and to be fulfilled and to be happy and to be accomplished. And so I want you to think about your choices and what makes you happy, and some of the decisions that a lot of you are going to be making very soon, if you haven't been making already, that I want to think about with you. There's a lot to applaud in participation in leadership, but not every situation requires you to be the boss and be in charge in order to be exhibiting leadership skills. I think it's very important, especially as you think about your first jobs or your internships or who you look to as mentors, that listening and having a really good example to follow is also a certain type of leadership, self-leadership, if you will. And it's something I would really strongly encourage you to do, especially since you're active in multiple organizations. Take officer roles in this organization or another organization, or maybe a couple, but watch how other people do it in other situations in which you find yourself, because some of the best things I've learned are from hard knocks and being in charge and making a mistake, or being in charge and doing something well and saying, okay, yeah, I need to do that again, right? But a lot of really good things have happened to me and set me up for what has been a very happy career path for me by watching someone else and saying, God, you're really good at that. I should do that. I don't do that. That didn't occur to me. Now it does. And making my notes and saying, okay, when I'm in that situation or a comparable situation, what so-and-so did, that resonates with me, and I'm putting that in my toolbox to use later. So leadership by being a leader, being in charge, being on the committee, leadership by being a learner and a listener and taking in information and using it at the right time, when it makes sense for you, when it makes sense for an institution that you're representing, when it makes sense for a goal that you're trying to achieve. Very good leaders are, in my opinion, balanced between when they're in which type of situation and how they take on all the different activities and demands of their life. And you all have been hearing a lot about work-life balance. How often do you hear that in classes and from our PDP workshop? It's a buzzword. It's important. I'm a mother and a wife, and I like to exercise, and I like to do community service, and I work really hard, as you know, and so it's a mantra for me. It's not just this thing that you read about or that you hear about in workshop. But a thing to keep in mind about work-life balance is that it means different things to different people, right? So when you say work-life balance, what you mean is what percentage of your life do you want to devote to different things in your life? And you really, there's no one who can define that for you. You really have to figure that out for yourself. And it will mean different things at different phases in your life. So very few people I know in my generation, and I think this is a very big difference between what my generation went through and what your generation will go through. Very few people in my generation who are in my peer group today and are in leadership positions in their jobs and are feeling professionally fulfilled. So like a subset of my friends who I went to college with and went to grad school with are where they want to be if they didn't slave when they were in that first job after graduation. So the ones who are sort of like self-evaluating now that we're 20-something years out of college, I'm your parents' age, and well, maybe some of your parents' age, and are saying, this is a good job, I like where I am now. I mean, there's more to do, but I feel like the path has been good. We all killed ourselves for the first 5 years. Balance was not falling over at the end of the 14-hour day, right? So that's what we did. And that's what was expected of us, and there was no alternative. It didn't occur to us to do anything else. I don't think that's necessarily the case in what is expected of the new talent pool today. Some employers, yes. Some of you are going to go into jobs that if you're not first in, last out, if you're not top of the quota, if you're not whatever, then you're not going to thrive there, and you're not going to advance there in a way that then yields the next advancement and the next advancement. But some of you are going to go into situations where to make you happy, they have things in the office like slides and tree houses and dodgeball courts, and you all heard and seen and visited, these companies that this is mind-blowing to me. Even though I go to these places with you all, monthly, to look around and see that, and I just think, wow, it's literally like my parents yelling to me, turn that music down. I mean, that's how it feels to me to see the environments in which you all will have the opportunity to work and to experience work. But that may not be what you want. It may not be the environment that you want, and that's okay too. I think tree houses at work are really cool. We won't have one in Cornell Hall. I'll just go ahead and tell you that. But if that's the place where you think that you're going to really get what you need out of the first few years of your professional life, and that's where you need to go. And if it's not, then you don't, and that's okay too. And if somebody chooses it and everybody's congratulating them on the cool factor and you're doing something traditional, it doesn't mean that the path is any better or any worse. It's really good to just try to think about what's going to make you happiest and what's going to make you happiest today and what's going to make you happiest 5 years from now. Now, I know you get that question all the time too. How many of you have been asked that interview, what's your 5-year plan? Or you've been told to prepare for the question. If you haven't been asked it yet, and if you haven't prepared for the question, you should prepare for the question. But at the same time, I'm telling you, you won't be doing in 5 years whatever you answer. You won't. Right? I didn't. No one I know did. No one I know did. And I mean, I can tell you what I did in my first 5 years out of college. I met a guy and got married and had a baby. Who's going to be the freshman at the zoo in a few months, right? And 2 more. No idea that that's what was going to happen to me. I was ambitious. I had lockstep things I was going to accomplish, and then life happened, right? And it was great. And he's still my husband, and she's still my kid. She doesn't hate me, I don't think. Sometimes maybe a little, but no more than usual. We'll say that. And that's all good. And in a way, it slowed me down, and all of my friends who were really driven and who would have showed up looking perfect and who were involved in multiple organizations said that I was ruining my career, right? And ruining my career? Oh my God. I mean, and if I don't do this, am is that going to close every door I ever wanted to close? And the answer is there are very few things that can close a door at your age. So things like ruining your reputation, that can close the door, right? Things like not living up to your word, not being reliable, those close doors. But making life choices with good reasons that you can articulate, those don't close doors. Those just change the path. And I want you to be willing to embrace the uncertainty that that brings with it. And not consider that a lack of leadership, a lack of success, a lack of drive, right? So we're really dedicated to trying to make opportunities for you so that you can figure out as much of this as possible. You know, we bring in a lot of speakers, we make you go, you're earning your points tonight, right? We're very sort of maternalistic, paternalistic, depending on who you're talking to, about trying to make sure you squeeze as much out of this place as possible. And I'm preaching to the choir a little bit with this group because you're here at 7 o'clock at night in a suit, you're squeezing